I'm Anna Bubasco, Chief Business Officer at Denari, and you're watching Taping Film.
All right, let's do it, folks. Time to rock and roll on this Monday, February 9th. 2 minutes to go into the close. We are looking at several of the major market indexes, not only in positive territory, but at least for the NYSE Composite Index, as well as for the Dow 30. Fresh all-time highs, not a ton of movement in the Dow after Friday's history-making first ever close above 50,000, but the Dow 30 components currently up about 0.08%. It's small, but a gain is a gain on this first trading day of the trading week. Tech, materials, and telecom, those are your strongest performing sectors in the S&P 500 in a very strong session there. Losses to the downside led by healthcare, staples, as well as financials, with a lot of the big banks down in negative territory. Welcome to the broadcast, one and all. You are watching Taking Stock. I'm your host, JD Durkin, mere moments away from the ringing of the iconic closing bell down here at the big board. The team from Flotek, ticker symbol FTK, both here to do the honors. They'll also join the broadcast coming up in just a little bit. Volatility easing for a second consecutive session. Kind of a quiet day, all things considered, for bond yields, but we do have a lot of Fed activity in the next few days. We'll be watching the bond market very closely for their response. Gold and silver both ticking up at least a little bit after several weeks of volatility. Silver currently trading right around $82 an ounce. The oil benchmark's in positive territory, and the crypto majors are flat to the upside. Bitcoin trying to stabilize right around 70,000. We'll talk a lot more about those in just a bit as well. The great Katy Perry is on deck. She'll join us after the bell, but we'll bring you the bell first. The team from Flotek here to do the honors. And the major market indexes in positive territory for this Monday, February 9th. All-time highs for the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index, as well as for the Dow 30, holding on to very, and I do mean very, fractional gains. The Dow up 0.04%, finishing for the second time ever above 50,000, 5134.57. The small caps up 0.7, and the broader S&P 500, the benchmark index on this Monday, up, let's call it 0.5%. And let's bring in our good friend Katy Perry, CMO at Zero Hash, here to kick things off. Thank you for being here as always.
Thank you for having me again.
We're fresh off Dow 50,000 for the most part, still right about at, or at least very close to all-time highs. Doesn't feel that way, given all the wild days of volatility we have. What are you following across the broader markets, Katy?
Well, I missed all the fun Friday, but nice to see we're still up above 50K. A lot of exciting earnings this week. I'm really going to pay attention to Robinhood, to Coinbase. We also have McDonald's and Coca-Cola. But those first two are really interesting to me, to see the state of retail investors and how these companies are sort of faring the balance of their businesses amid some of the wobbliness that we're seeing in crypto.
Are there particular names or sectors you are uniquely seeing retail investors gravitate to a bit more now than they have in the past? Or are you still kind of seeing the typical rotation? They like tech, they like a lot of the big splashy names.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels risk off at the moment, but we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see with Robinhood and Coinbase, their deposits. How many people are adding money into the stock market as things are a little wobblier? Also, new account openings. How much has crypto fully infiltrated the retail investors? And is there more room to grow for those companies?
Today's also our Super Bowl hangover edition of the show. They always say this is the day most Americans take off from work, but you and I are definitely here to do the work. Talk to me about Super Bowl ads. We had a lot of big splashy business companies and corporations. They wanted that valuable airspace to reach Americans.
So many interesting things happen with the ads. I mean, you're talking about $10 million for 30 seconds. Avalanche, which is a crypto ecosystem, actually bought a 1-second ad, and they tweeted that it was 300K, and it was a flash, which I thought was a pretty clever use of funds, I guess you can say. But the big things were auto dealers were largely sitting it out. They were 40% of the ad airtime in 2012, only 7% this year. Then you're seeing things like OpenAI and Anthropic, and I feel like those two are almost the new Coke versus Pepsi in this sort of battle for consumer AI attention. So a lot of really fascinating things happened with the ads, but overall it's interesting to see how everyday Americans are reacting to some of these bigger names in AI and tech versus people like us who are down and around it more often.
How about the Bad Bunny economic impact for people, many of whom, of course, very excited to watch that halftime show yesterday?
I enjoyed the halftime show because I like fun, but just reading up on Bad Bunny and what he's built is amazing. I mean, he brought his tour back to Puerto Rico. That was $700 million economic impact. You look at the Google Trends chart even of just searches for Puerto Rico tourism. There's clear trends there that he's definitely creating. And I also learned that he is a big owner of his own music. So 90% of the royalties of his music he gets himself. And some record labels that could be as low as 15 to 20. So BB stands for Big Business and Bad Bunny, and power to him.
Yeah, very nice. There's always a money story, right? There's always a business story, even for something as amazing as the Super Bowl halftime show. Before we let you go, what is your take? What are you following on the performance of the crypto majors?
Yeah.
That's been a wild story. Bitcoin trying to find its footing around 70,000 right now.
It's interesting because you have a couple narratives going on. You have the kind of the volatility and the trading of the assets, but then you have the ongoing sustained momentum with institutions really adopting crypto. So one thing in the Coinbase earnings I'm going to look for is their stablecoin revenue. Stablecoin was, of course, one of the biggest words we heard out of Davos. And we saw in Zero Hash, stablecoin account funding for sports betting for live markets platforms during the Super Bowl was huge last year. People were funding their accounts with stablecoins in less than 0.1 seconds. So a lot of speed there that's going over time, but of course it's existing in the day-to-day of people watching their portfolio. Yeah,
and it sets up an amazing week of earnings. We got a ton of great names in the S&P. 3 down names will be reporting quarterly results in the next few days as well, including, like you mentioned, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, a handful of others. The great Katy Perry, very good friend of ours here at Taking Stock. Come back anytime.
Thank you,
Great
JD.
to have you. Jeremy will grab your mic. Howie, you and I are going to cheat ahead this way. And even though we just had Super Bowl Sunday, it is never too early, at least in the eyes of polymarket participants, to try and figure out who's going to win next year's Super Bowl. Yeah, that's right. As of today, we are only 213 days away from kickoff of the next NFL season on Thursday, September 10th. We don't know the exact schedule, but we do know the home and away matchups for all 32 NFL teams. Seattle Seahawks open up as the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl again next year at 12%, followed by the Buffalo Bills at 9%, the LA Rams at 8%, the Patriots and Baltimore Ravens then round out the top 5. Titans, Jets, Falcons, Panthers, and the Cleveland Browns, unfortunately, all sitting at 1%, and my beloved New York Football Giants, 3% chance to win the Super Bowl under new head coach John Harbaugh. You're telling me there's a chance? I'll take 3% odds for a 4-win football team. Howie, we'll take a look here at 2 NYSE notables telling 2 very different stories into the closing auction today. We'll start with Oracle, one of the best performers in the S&P 500 today. If you followed the trading technicals, this thing bounced off the 200-week moving average after Thursday's close beautifully, still down about 50% off its recent all-time highs from September 10th. Analysts from D.A. Davidson upgrading the stock from neutral to buy. ORCL set to report quarterly results in the next few weeks on Monday, March 9th. Finally, we'll take a look here at shares of Coca-Cola ahead of their earnings. Katie and I talked about it there a moment ago. Shares under pressure a little bit today, down 1.3%, but this has had a wild uptrend over the last month or so, up 15% since January 8th alone. The real perfect risk-off, rotating, defensive stock. You tend to see volatility in the rest of the markets. A name like KO tends to do very well. However, our good friend Jay Woods from Freedom Cap says it is tough to see much more upside given its recent run. The street is expecting earnings a share of 56 cents and $12 billion in revenue for the holiday quarter. Last week, FinTech TV lead anchor Remy Blair sat down with Blockchain.com CEO Peter Smith at the Ondo Summit 2026 right here in New York City. Take a look.
Welcome to FinTech TV. I'm Remy Blair. While Washington remains in a stalemate over crypto rules, the industry is not waiting around. Blockchain.com and Ondo Finance just announced a major expansion, bringing tokenized U.S. stocks and ETFs to eligible users across Europe. Now, this partnership allows users to access regulated RWAs directly through a digital wallet, a move that's already rolled out across Africa and South America. Joining us now at Ondo Summit 2026 is Peter Smith, CEO and founder at Blockchain.com. Peter, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, tell me about this expansion into Europe. Why now?
I thought, we are basically trying to roll out products in a really organized way across markets. So we'll roll them out in a few markets, take that feedback from customers, incorporate that, more markets. And so this has sort of reached the end of our beta phase in Nigeria, and we rolled out kind of in South America and felt like Europe would be the right, next geography to expand access to the product.
And when we're talking about access here in the U.S., it is easy to access stocks as well as funds. But when we're talking about overseas markets And given the growth in terms of U.S. equity markets, there's a lot of demand. So walk us through this and some of the innovations that are taking place.
Yeah, I think one of the big sort of global inequities in the world has been that most people in the world historically have not had access to U.S. financial markets or the dollar. And I think crypto has basically gone a long way toward fixing that. Like today, there's 40 million of our customers around the world that have access to the U.S. dollar. That would have never been the case before crypto. And, by the end of another year or two, all those people also have access to U.S. capital markets, so U.S. equities. I think when you look at the last 40 or 50 years, the U.S. markets have vastly outperformed sort of every other geography. And so really it's about kind of leveling the playing field to financial access and potentially financial success for people around the world.
Yeah, and on a day like today when we are seeing red for most of the equity market, but we are looking at a name such as Walmart, a U.S. retail name, hit the $1 trillion market club. That's something that we monitor. But for people out there who are wondering, why should they go with, say, a blockchain.com wallet instead of a heavily regulated custodian? What would you say to them?
Honestly, most of our customers are not people that would use a heavily regulated custodian. And so it's not usually that kind of trade-off that customers are having. The answer to why go with blockchain.com, though, is really simple. We've been doing business for about 14 years now. And in that time period, we've never broken a trade. We've never not honored a withdrawal. And we've always sort of done what's in the best interest of our customers. That's a really hard thing to pull off in crypto, much harder than it is to pull off in TradFi. And so I think when, you ask customers, why trade with us, why transact with us, it ultimately comes back to that element of trust. And the, funny thing about trust is that, it's earned. And we've spent a long time building that trust with our customers.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Peter, because 15 years is a long time. Even when we look at some of the crypto prices, right? Crypto majors 14 years ago, 15 years ago, a stark contrast despite what's happening in the marketplace right now. So what do you make of what's happening now, especially as we're having TradFi and DeFi conversion? We're talking about institutional adoption. How do you see all of this actually shaking out and affecting the retail consumer stateside?
I think one of the things that we're seeing from the convergence of crypto and TradFi assets is the correlation problem, which most of, TradFi assets are incredibly correlated now, right? So the fact that we're surprised that Walmart's up and everything else is down, it kind of goes to the point of how correlated these assets are. That correlation matrix is also impacting crypto as crypto becomes more TradFi dominated, which is kind of, interesting to see. I expect that correlation to break. I think that crypto assets will trade very differently than most U.S. equities, but at least, today, these things are trading in a pretty correlated fashion. I think the other reality is that most market participants right now are very nervous about the year ahead.
Yeah.
And you see that actually in the fact that Walmart is up. Why is Walmart up? Because people shop more at Walmart when the economy is not doing well. And so I think that you're seeing that sort of contagion spill over into the crypto market. But what I'm really fond of reminding people is in crypto, you can make a lot of money, but it's very hard to do quickly. It's actually easy to make a lot of money in crypto if you're willing to be patient. It's really hard to do it really fast. And unfortunately, a lot of people want to make money very quickly in crypto, and that usually backfires pretty spectacularly.
Well, Peter, it was great talking to you at Ondo Summit 2026 in New York. Thank you so much for your perspective, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. You're watching Taking Stock live from the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Sun Ragapathy joins us now. He is the co-founder and CEO of Veda, making not just his debut on Taking Stock, but if I'm not mistaken, his first time ever down here at the big board. Welcome to the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks for having me.
Give me a bit of an introduction to Veda for any of our viewers watching who might be a bit unfamiliar, and talk to me additionally about some of your top priorities here as we go further into Q1 of 2026.
Absolutely. Veda is an on-chain technology company. We help fintechs, exchanges, traditional institutions like banks and asset managers help offer crypto on-chain products to their customers. This often takes the form of yield products, right? We're finding yield is at the center of many discussions happening both in regulation and in technology. And the broad idea is that a high yield dollar-based savings account will permeate every financial interface. Every consumer on the planet should have access to this technology. It's our mission to make that happen.
When you get these relationships going with these traditional fintech names, do you sense a lot of enthusiasm for them to embrace kind of what could be viewed as new disruptive technology, or is there still a little bit of education, a little bit of hesitancy on their behalf to embrace really what you're all about?
Yeah, as with all forms of disruptive technology, things move a little bit slower, especially in finance when there's money at risk. But it's been remarkable the pace of adoption that we're seeing from fintechs. They really view this technology as a sword that they can use to conquer traditional finance, right? They're stealing market share, they're able to move a lot quicker, and so we're already seeing these products rolled out from traditional crypto exchanges like Kraken and Coinbase. It's going to be 6 to 12 months before we see some of the largest fintechs offering these products, but it's inevitable. You can mark my words on that.
And so you think that's a timeline that pushes up to the second half of 2026. It's certainly a paradigm shift. Is that a fair description of how you see the ecosystem changing in real time?
It's nothing short of a revolution. It's remarkable to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Will legacy institutions upgrade global finance? I mean, we talk a lot about institutions like this one, the New York Stock Exchange going with tokenized offerings for the future. Everyone's trying to figure out what these rules of the road will be. What most excites you as you see these legacy names in the world of finance say, hey, we kind of know where the puck is going a bit.
Yeah, what I'll say is I don't think all legacy institutions will be quick enough to adapt, but it's also been really interesting to see some of the largest players on the planet are embracing this technology, right? The New York Stock Exchange has not announced, this partnership with Polymarket, but also 24/7 instant settlement trading with tokenized equities. It's remarkable. And the best thing is that all of this is built for consumers, right? This isn't some posturing that they're saying, oh, we're tech forward. That difference from, trading on weekdays, 9 to 5, T+1 settlement, being able to offer 24/7 trading with instant settlement, it's a huge win for everyone.
I got less than a minute left. What do you think is the greater risk to market stability? Is it heavy-handed over-regulation or continued uncertainty out of Capitol Hill?
Look, as a builder in the space, there's nothing worse than uncertainty, right? Especially at the scale that this technology is reaching. I think it's okay to accept some trade-offs and some concessions, but the sooner we get regulatory clarity, the sooner us builders can do our job.
Sun Ragapathy is the co-founder and CEO of Veda. Thanks a lot for coming down here to the show, and you're welcome back to the NYSE anytime. Great to have you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Don't go anywhere. Much more Taking Stock coming up after this quick break. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Taking Stock. Time now to say hello to our third guest of the show. This is Ryan Ezell, the CEO of Flowtech Industries. Not just an incredible guest, but the man himself who just rang the closing bell at the big board. How about that? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Exciting day today for Flotek.
Everyone in the world of business looks at that closing bell and they're like, that's the dream for the Yankee Stadium of finance. What's it like to actually be up there and do the thing yourself?
You know, it's hard to describe. Like for Flotek, exciting day. We got a lot of our management staff here. Our board was here today, and look, it truly represents the value that we've had in the turnaround of this organization over the last 6 years and the trajectory we've got for a bright future at Flotek.
So give me a bit of an introduction first and foremost for anyone watching who might not know what Flotek is all about, and then talk to me further about that turnaround strategy and some of the challenges that it's kind of taken to get here.
Yes, for those that don't know Flotek, we are an innovative chemical and data analytics company that's built around using chemistry as a common value creation platform. And here what you've really seen the reemergence of Flotek on the scene in the last 2 to 3 years has been around our convergence of our real-time data analytics and monitoring systems combined with our advanced innovative chemistry technologies that are improving transparency, operational efficiency, and sustainability. Big exciting piece we have on the data analytics side is around our custody transfer, digital valuation, and more recently our gas conditioning for power generation, which is really exciting in the markets today, as you've seen, as a growth of power gen, data centers, et cetera.
I mean, I feel like almost every day that I'm doing the show, I'm saying of the very few sectors that are defiantly catching a bid right now, it's oil and energy stocks, significantly outperforming the market. Howie, can we get a quick shot of the board to show how the stock performed today? Up 2.6% on the backdrop, Ryan, where the S&P is only up 0.5%. That is strong outperformance. To what degree do you have to position yourselves against the macroeconomic backdrop, and how does that impact your work at Flotek?
You know, it's very interesting for us. I think that we're going to be the tip of the spear for innovation. When you look at the electrification needs that we're going to have here in the United States in the coming future, and our ability to condition, monitor, and measure natural gas, and how we're going to evolve as an organization, we've in the process of orchestrating an amazing industrialized pivot. And the future's going to be bright because we'll be that tip of the spear for bringing effective, costly, improved energy to the world. And we're excited about it not only domestically, but also what we're doing internationally.
What are the needs of things like energy infrastructure that not enough people talk enough about?
You know, I think there's a couple of things I would look at in terms of one, we're just now really understanding these dramatic power demand requirements from data centers and AI. So that's a huge growth platform. But one thing people aren't even really paying attention to is just the total electrification needs across the U.S. because a lot of the infrastructure is at its end of life, and more than 50% of the transmission and other distribution lines are practically failing. And you see this when we have storms, where we see dramatic surges on the system, and our ability to bring power and monitoring components in these remote areas are going to be huge because we don't necessarily have all the gensets, but we condition the gas that operates and produces the power to the generation at sites. And so it's a really exciting time for Flotek. And that's an industrial twist on, you know, what was conventionally an older oil and gas chemistry business that's quite evolved now.
Yeah, what most excites you about that evolution, taking such an old legacy industry and saying, hey, it is ripe for some disruption in the best way possible?
Well, you know, it's pros and cons. For a guy that's a trained chemist by trade, it's a little bit heartbreaking to know that the market values other things a little bit more exciting than just pure molecules.
Sure.
And so the transition that we made of the way you make chemical businesses better is you monitor them in real time. You provide transparency on how chemistry reacts and how it impacts day-to-day life. And that's what we're doing here at Flotek, and we're really excited about that.
Ryan Ezell, CEO of Flotek Industries, a strong tape on this Monday. Thanks a lot for being here. It's great to have you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Much more Taking Stock coming up after this quick break. Tina Loncarrick joins us now for a one-on-one interview. Tina, of course, is the global head of public relation at Money 2020. Tina, thanks a lot for taking the time. It's great to have you, and I've been so excited about our conversation today. Money 2020 Asia happens in Bangkok in April 21st to April 23rd. Talk to me first and foremost about some of the ways participating companies can prepare for their news stories ahead of the show in April.
Sure. Thank you for having me, JD, on the show. So yes, we are super excited about Money 2020 Asia in Bangkok. And we are now in the midst of booking speakers and planning out these fantastic news stories that we love for the companies to submit. So if you are a delegate, if you are a sponsor, if you're an exhibitor, you have the chance to submit to our call for breaking news for the chance to present your news story on stage in front of the global media audience in Bangkok.
So what exactly is Money 2020's Asia's call for breaking news? And talk to me a bit more about the things you're looking for.
Money 2020's call for breaking news in Bangkok is essentially all about finding those amazing news stories. Whether you're a delegate, whether you're a sponsor, whether you're an exhibitor, you have the chance to submit that exclusive news story to our call for breaking news submission on our website. We are looking for anything between product launches, mergers, partnerships, acquisitions, white paper surveys, reports. Media tends to love white papers and surveys. What is the most important thing here is that the story has not been launched anywhere before. It needs to be 100% exclusive so that the media really feels that this is a one-of-a-kind news story only launched at Money 2020 Asia.
Tina, I wonder, are there any special rules, special requirements when applying for call for breaking news?
Yes. So again, the importance of 100% under embargo, 100% exclusive, that is the number one rule. If you are announcing a partnership, for example, we would love to see that partner together with you presenting on stage. We cannot bring forward a partnership or a customer story unless we have that customer or partner on stage. Those are important things. What is also important is to bring forward your most senior executive or leader that has been part of making that news story happen. That is one important aspect of this. But we can't wait to receive your submissions, and we really have an amazing opportunity for a company to present that story on one of our 4 beautiful stages in Bangkok.
And if a company's news story is chosen, Tina, how can that company better amplify that story to the media at the show in Bangkok?
So we will promote the story ahead of time. We will promote the companies that are launching the story. The story will be exclusive up until launched on stage. The company can obviously promote this after they have announced it on stage. There is interview opportunities with the media afterwards. So this is a way to take one story to a global audience.
Tina Loncarrick is the global head of public relation, Money 2020. We cannot wait for the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to lay out everything that's at stake here for these call for breaking news stories. And thanks a lot for being here, Tina. We'll see you at the show.
Thanks so much, JD.
Back-to-back gains across the major market indexes and a few all-time highs to note as well, both for the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index as well as the Dow 30 as it pushes yet another leg north of its first ever close above 50,000. The strongest Dow performers helping push it even further on the day include names like Microsoft, Nvidia, as well as Cisco as big tech's big bounce back continues. Tomorrow here on Wall Street, plenty of earnings. We'll hear from Coca-Cola, Spotify, Datadog, and CVS in the morning, and at the close, Robinhood and Ford. Thanks for watching today's edition of Taking Stock, and we'll see you again tomorrow.